Um, the strategy I'm going for with this is it's what you call it, it's a publicity stunt. Publicity stunt is the best way. I mean, you studied advertising, right?
Yeah.
It's like fucking free, like, press. It's free, acknowledgement and awareness. Like, it's the cheapest way to, like, get a conversation started if it's executed right.
The trick is executed right.
Yeah.
Like, that's the secret sauce where...
And there's no way to really measure that or really, like, you know...
I mean, there are ways to measure it, but
and not measure it.
Successfully
To plan it beforehand and, like, say that this is going to probably work. Like, whereas with, like, television, you know, you can measure how many eyes are going to see it, you know?
Right.
Radio, you can measure how many people, how many ears are going to hear.
Well, I mean, nowadays with with YouTube, you've got a decent way of figuring out who's the thing, or like using social media.
Right. Yeah,
like
social media. Yeah, it's definitely a good way to measure. But I'm talking like I want this to raise such a like I don't know, like I want to basically get a news story out of it.
Right.
So I want eventually.
Right. Like the challenge is basically if you want to be like a you have to figure out how to get enough people moving.
Right.
Like, and it's so difficult because you're always dealing with like the biggest killer of any idea is always going to be inertia. I mean, like, so the thing that I definitely have learned over a lot of experimenting, trying to get ideas off the ground, especially ideas involving people, is you want to, like, as you work on things, separate the approaches that you come up with from the actual ideas themselves. Like, tactics, techniques.
Right.
And you want to sort of, like, figure out how they work, sort of what things are going to, like, really stick with people and what's not. Because even if this doesn't turn into, like, this is the idea that you go with, you want to sort of, like, build up sort of a vocabulary of, like, how to learn about things. So that once you have, like, enough of that, you can start, like, really quickly checking ideas that you have against sort of what it is that you already know to go, like, okay, this isn't going to work because of this, but if we added this other thing into it, then possibly it could take off.
Right. So you're saying isolating the tactics by just like almost ignoring the content of it and just looking at the tactics in a way that it's like, dude, this is we know that people respond to this sort of
engagement.
Yeah, engagement. Yeah.
Right.
Like is that like?
Yeah, like the best way to understand advertising in an artistic sense, which is not the most practical way to go about advertising, but which I think it's useful for like trying to figure out what's going to work and what doesn't, is advertising is very much the art of figuring out how to reach people. And not like individuals, but how to reach groups of people large enough that there's kind of a statistical shift in things. And it's very tricky because it's not like people stay the same. Advertising is so context-based. Like, culture changes every time there's any big shift in things. So as soon as one advertising things work, kind of what happens next. So, like, it's a very, very, like, complicated practice. But the way that you go about it is by figuring out, okay, here are the ways that I might reach large groups of people. And then you kind of, like, you test around and you fiddle and you go, okay, this didn't catch on because people got to this point, they said, fuck it, I quit. And then you kind of figure out how to, like, push them past things. Like, it's sort of like, it's almost like UX design.
Yeah.
I mean, UX design is kind of more advertising, but it's UX design where the experience that you're trying to shape is not a computer interface. It's kind of a procedural IRL.
Yeah.
Kind of like, how do you get people from point A?
Right.
I mean, so the way that I see it is awareness is kind of the middle step of a 3-step process, where you first got the actual, like, sensational awareness, which is you have been in a place where this thing's message is somehow going to, like, impede on your senses. You hear something, you see something. One day advertisers are going to figure out how to communicate, like, through smell, and soon you're going to smell ads, but we're not there yet. Usually it's you hear something, you see something.
So sensory awareness.
And then you get, like, a logical or intellectual awareness, where you go, okay, here's this thing that's going on, here are the ideas behind it, here's why I might want this thing. But then what you finally have is, and this is a weird phrase, and there are better ways of putting it, but, like, there's an actionable awareness, which is to say, it's not just I know of this thing, it's I am going to do this thing.
You have to know how that sounds like interruption marketing to me, though, right? You get that, right? It's like, it sounds like I'm banking on, like, some sensory input to change your action. I mean, like, that's basically what I mean.
To some extent, sensory input is a very, very effective way of doing that, except for the fact that
it's all sensory input to some degree. I mean, I guess is what I was kind of getting at.
It's very, very hard to move from, like, sensory overstimulation towards getting people to actually think about things.
Right,
like,
right.
It's not... Yeah, like, it seems like...
Yeah, you're right. I mean, like, to a certain degree, like, a Konica Minolta ad or something in the middle of the Daily Show is, like, not really intending for you to, like, get out of your seat and go to Best Buy and buy a fucking Konica Minolta printer. Like, but that, so I hear you what you're saying, Steve, as far as, like, it's awareness, but it's like, yeah, if I beat Konica Minolta into your head 40 fucking times, maybe the next time you go to Circuit City and you're like, oh, Konica Minolta's the only printer brand that I know. Like, you just go, but that's like, that's like marketing to, like, I don't want to say, like, the lower version of your customer, but it's definitely not marketing to, like, the most mindful parts of your customer base.
It's probably like the doctors are baffled by this one weird trick that makes your penis bigger. Can you please tell me? Oh my god.
Clickhole.
So, okay. Clickhole.com. It is the Onion's response to BuzzFeed.
Come over here.
Yeah, seriously. Get a real, like, setup there. There you go.
Totally sold me on it. Is look for, yeah, so go to Click. So they all basically do BuzzFeed-style articles that try to subvert how BuzzFeed works. So I think look for a clickhole and search for, like, whale or something.
Look up Putin.
I
don't know. That's just my go-to.
What, like, whaling. I forget exactly.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure if you were talking about the killing whales or just, like, screaming.
Okay, so yeah, so they have a blog article called "The Time I Spent on a Commercial Whaling Ship Totally Changed My Perspective on the World," which like total BuzzFeed
sensational,
totally BuzzFeed clickbait headline.
Yeah,
this when it loads. I'm not going to say anything about it. Susan both.
No, I read I wasn't planning on. All right,
Sorry.
Okay. Why did that not become a link? Apparently, clickhole.com does not automatically become a link.
Already. Chapter 1, Loomings. Call me Ishmael. Some years ago, never mind how long precisely, having little or no money in my purse. Awesome.
But it's literally the.
I've never read Moby Dick. Right.
That's so you go in not.
Wait,
knowing.
You didn't know Call Me Ishmael? Are you shitting me?
Dude,
I sent you a good one.
Read this one. The headline is, read the word Glenn 200 times in a row, and you'll slowly begin to realize that it's a really weird name.